Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well, hope you're all doing fantastic, hope you're all having an absolutely wonderful day. Yeah, don't forget to follow me. I was like, what words do I have to say? Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. There's a link in the description below. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. For those of you who have somehow missed it, this is basically been the news for the course of the last week and some change. Everyone has reversed. Everyone has shifted. Everyone has changed from their old ways, and no one seems to be openly and or overly pessimistic on the cryptocurrency market anymore. The idea is that October, November, December are going to be, this is the idea, are going to be incredible months for the cryptocurrency market. Even when you look around, a lot of times I peruse on Twitter and I see that, all the analysts are all kind of coming once again to the exact same conclusion as far as a potential six-figure Bitcoin by the end of this year. It says Bitcoin's potential, this was what we're about to go over, incredibly popular news, and I will, of course, tell you why. Bitcoin's potential for a strong performance in the fourth quarter of this year is gaining attention. Under freaking statement. Gaining attention in the financial community. People believe that it should have started sometime at the end of July and or August. A lot of people now are expecting, as we have seen the Fed rate cuts, that we once again might see more rate cuts from the US Fed. And if we do, all markets will perform a lot better. I mean, inflation will go up and people who don't hold assets are going to be in trouble. But the expectation is that everyone in crypto is holding crypto. So this is kind of where it ends up going back to. Recent economic policy changes by the Federal Reserve could have significant implications for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. You must have seen over the course of the last couple of days, Bitcoin goes up by 3%, 2%, 4%. You've seen a lot of altcoins going up by like 18% and 24%, right? Yeah. That's what always happens during a bull run. If this is your first time here, I've been telling you all that before. I think you need to see it to actually believe it and or understand it. But yeah, that's what normally happens during a bull run. So you know how a lot of times you will hear this coin did, 20,000% up. This coin went up by 5,000% over the course of a year during the bull run. The numbers sound insane, but it's typically what happens. So one of the ideas is that October, I believe it's meant to be October and November historically, tend to be like bright green months for Bitcoin. That is to say, up by 15%, 20% over the course of the entire month. Fantastic. Altcoins usually tend to double in price roughly around the exact same time. If Bitcoin goes up by 20%, altcoins will probably do a good 115% at the exact same time. Financial experts are analyzing historical trends and current market conditions to forecast Bitcoin's trajectory. This was very popular news, and you should see why in a couple of seconds. There we go. The head of digital assets at BlackRock. That's why his name is Matthew Sigel, S-I-G-E-L, has expressed optimism regarding Bitcoin's prospects For the remainder of the year, we normally get cryptocurrency market news analyticals from Glassnode, Santiment, Into the Block, maybe some Novogratz stuff, maybe one or two Michael Saylor things, who's also like saying interesting things as of late. I don't know if everyone saw the thing where he was talking about that like Bitcoin doesn't give a return recently, and everyone was like, what are you talking about? We normally 99.9% of the time do not receive information directly from BlackRock, except for about 2 weeks ago. If you missed that video or weren't here, it was really weird because the one of the heads of BlackRock, if not Larry Fink himself, went on to CNBC and he basically said Bitcoin is the thing that people are going to choose against the inflating dollar and economic problems and all this other stuff. And everyone was like, what? Normally, those are closed door conversations. And or if we have someone eccentric enough in the cryptocurrency space to release news like that or to say that out loud, cool. You normally wouldn't hear it from the guy who runs the company that owns the world. And now we are seeing this trickle of higher ups in BlackRock. They own the freaking, almost cursed. They own the world. Beginning to talk about like Bitcoin's prospects and where Bitcoin's price is going to go in light of the Federal Reserve's. It says unexpected. I think there was one bank who expected it. Unexpected 50 basis point interest rate cut. Siegel suggested that such policy shifts could enhance liquidity conditions, basically a rush of new money moving into the market, thus benefiting high-risk assets such as Bitcoin. And I'll say it this way. According to analysts, if we have another interest rate cut of 0.25 and or 50 points in November, it's all but a given, according to analysts, that Bitcoin is basically going to begin to like shoot for the moon and head to $200,000 to $300,000 incredibly quick. The Federal Reserve's recent decision to cut interest rates by 50 points, double the anticipated 25, has surprised market participants and led to an immediate surge in Bitcoin's price. Following the announcement, it went to almost 64,000 on Bitstamp, marking a significant uptick. Got it. Despite experiencing lower than expected performance in September. I mean, it is what it is. At least, listen, we could be back at $33,000 right now. I need everyone to always remember those kinds of things. Like in, what was it? A year and a half, almost 2 years ago, Bitcoin was like 16,000. You know, woe is us. So regardless of where we are on most days, we're still doing pretty okay. Despite experiencing lower than expected performance in September. Okay. That's weird. Okay, anyway. In September, Bitcoin has historically shown strong performance in November, with average gains in November on average for Bitcoin of 37%. If Bitcoin goes up by 20 to 30% in October and then 37% in November, we are going to get to Christmas with a $125,000 Bitcoin. This historical data suggests a potentially robust end-of-year performance for Bitcoin, particularly under improved liquidity conditions induced by the Federal Reserve's rate cut. People think that the money printer is going to be, I mean, there's not a physical money printer. I'm sure you've all seen like the Burr meme and stuff like that. There isn't a physical money printer that he's going to like churn money out of per se. However, a number of other countries have already begun to do quantitative easing, printing money to basically prop up their markets. It works, at least for a while. And the expectation is one of two things. Here we go again. The expectations for November is that either the Fed is going to cut interest rates by 50 points again, and then markets will begin to rally, and or the Fed will cut interest rates by 0.25 and or 50, and basically start printing enough money to be able to push the market, like the stock market, back up to improve liquidity conditions so that everything kind of looks a-okay. Yeah. Every day, everyone's talking about it. I'm quite shocked because this is a complete about face, completely 1000% from what we've been seeing over the course of the entirety of the summer. Like, we had like optimistic news of where the prices were going to go, but everyone seems convinced that Q4 is going to be the it for the cryptocurrency market. I will end this by saying we should be a lot higher already in price. I'm kind of just waiting patiently, impatiently for prices to really just do what they're supposed to do, because rich people they've really outdone themselves by manipulating the market in such a way that prices just did not move as they were accumulating large amounts of crypto. I'm sure you remember in June, July, and August, when every other day it was whales bought $1.3 billion worth of Bitcoin. This one wallet address bought $145 million worth of Bitcoin in 8 days. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. The price just went down. So we should be a lot higher in price. I don't want to use the term have faith. That's also a bit intense. I understand that the market will move back up. And I mean like pump, like, like the proper bull run kind of thing. But just a matter of when. We'll see when it happens. That's the person from BlackRock. Says he's expecting or predicting a strong Q4 for Bitcoin. And I guess also the cryptocurrency market. And yeah, let's move on. So here we are yet again, my friends. I will explain this to you. We will go over it. It will make sense to you, and then it'll start making even more sense. The way that the most of the world currently works or transacts or moves money around is through something called SWIFT, SWIFT. It is a messaging system that was created in the 1970s as the most modern way to send money around the world. And basically, with like old computers, people, if you were sending money from, let's say, the United States and you wanted to send it to Singapore, the system would basically message other countries that money was being transferred. So it would say, okay, it's going from Chicago, it just hit New York, it's going from the underground wire system, and it's going to Portugal. It hit Portugal, then the information gets transferred to another country, and it keeps bouncing over and over and over until it ends up getting to where it's meant to go. You might remember, especially if you're old enough, the days when you were trying to do international transfers, and they would say it's going to take about 7 days, it's going to take about 10 days. That was the messaging system that we're also still using. Money moves around a lot quicker now because of, what do you call it? It's not IOUs, but it's like a credit, if you will. So a lot of the world still runs on SWIFT, like explicitly. Even when they've like updated a lot of the systems, it's still a very slow moving messaging service. And basically, let's say you're trying to move money internationally, it still might take around 2 to 3 days for the payment to completely process. But the bank will actually kind of debit you or give you the money that you're supposed to be given nearly instantaneously, because they realize that we're not in the 70s anymore and people want faster money. But the old system basically has not really caught up. The second part is that the introduction of Ripple and then later on XRP, the story behind them was Bitcoin is basically meant to be the thing that gets us away from the old financial system. It's not really working anymore because Bitcoin's been integrated into basically everything, but you understand. It's meant to bring a brand new world of finance. Can't really do that with BlackRock. The point of XRP, at least in the very beginning, was that they didn't think that Bitcoin would be able to be the end-all for this new wave of finance. Therefore, in anticipation of the future becoming more digital and banks getting into crypto and blockchain, but not necessarily wanting to use Bitcoin because of the slow transactions, they would therefore be able to use XRP. That was the 2017, 2018 kind of model. The thing is that we started hearing a lot that Ripple was working with a lot of central banks, similar to how they are now. Like we have like solidified information. But back then it was kind of a question mark if they would actually be able to. The idea is that the usage of XRP wouldn't circumvent SWIFT. It would kind of improve on it or you can say usurp, kind of get rid of SWIFT. And that XRP would kind of be the new payment system. I need to give you this information so that you really get it, because this was almost as popular as the guy from BlackRock. I wish I was remotely joking. SWIFT hasn't really been in the cryptocurrency financial news in a while. It was years ago when one of the main objectives of crypto was to be faster. I don't know why, but there was a couple 4 or 5 year period. That's all that people wanted. Faster transactions, quicker transactions, more transactions per second. And that was because we were getting a lot of information from people who weren't into Bitcoin, that Bitcoin was too slow. And then we kept on having a bunch of new coins. And the idea was back then, which we also never hear about anymore, is that Visa and MasterCard are able to process between, I think, 40 to 60,000 transactions per second. So therefore, years ago, if your blockchain could do that, well, you're going to be the number one. But no one really seems to care about that as much anymore. So the news is SWIFT, the messaging system that we were just talking about. SWIFT has unveiled a plan to enable the movement of digital assets and currencies on their global payment network. Ta-da! See, I told you, that's why the news was popular. So, this news became popular mainly because people assumed that this was coded or some kind of silent wink in the direction of XRP as the thing that SWIFT was going to use. In the world that we currently exist in, governments around the world have more or less foregone the idea of creating a CBDC, a central bank digital currency, and instead they're trying to create their own stable coins. The problem is that all of these stable coins are not interoperable because the banks don't work with each other the way that they should. So this is why it was interesting about a month ago when we heard that multiple central banks were going to be using XRP, for those of you who missed that news, and that a bunch of countries are looking into the idea of creating their own stable coin to facilitate payments within their banking systems of that country. And basically, some of them were considering putting their coins on top of Ethereum, which only further solidified XRP and Ethereum as assets that people will continue to use. What I think is actually happening is that SWIFT is preparing to allow basically governments and central banks to put their stable coins on this global payment network that they're trying to build and or make better, if you will. The initiative aims to integrate regulated digital currencies into SWIFT's platform, building on past experiments. Regulated means stablecoins. It does not mean things that have been given regulatory clarity by the SEC or the CFTC. This is probably, you have to understand that these people, how do I say this? Bitcoin is made to crush all of this, and Bitcoin could especially with the Lightning Network, if more people got their crap together. Because the way that it works is, for those of you who don't know, Bitcoin is a system that everyone on the planet right now could use. Do you understand the power in that idea? Bitcoin isn't something that has to be created or made or that will launch sometime in the future. We've had it for 15 years. There are 4 billion people on the planet who do not have access to the current traditional financial system that we have. A lot of people are, like I said before, are still using phone credit as a literal way to transact in value. That's the way that the world is. If governments around the world got together and basically told these people, hey, there's a brand new system that you can use and you don't have to rely on our constantly inflating currency, you can have economic freedom. In a couple of years, that thing you put a couple monies into might be worth 5 or 6 figures. We would see a massive shift, and this is why, Bitcoin is incredibly powerful, and even people within the cryptocurrency space don't understand that, so I don't expect billions of people to also jump on board yet. But what we're seeing is they're trying to basically solidify the old system in a new way. If you weren't here years ago, there were like a government surveys and stuff like that, and I went over this a couple of months ago. Do you know why the original idea of central bank digital currencies came about? It's because the government surveys from central banks, governments and central banks thought and probably still think the only reason why people wanted Bitcoin was because it was digital. This is going to sound crazy. It's because they're not very smart. They believed that the average consumer wanted a more digital way of payment. So therefore, these governments said, okay, cool, we'll just create a digital version of our money, get rid of cash, and this will be kind of the end all. People will want to use this instead. They thought that we were using Bitcoin and buying crypto not to get away from the old system that they keep on destroying and crumbling, but because we wanted things to be more digital. This is why you keep on seeing and why I keep rolling my eyes at Coinbase and Circle. For those of you who didn't see it as well, they keep promoting stablecoins. They're no longer even pretending to be into Bitcoin or decentralization. A lot of companies are just creating stablecoins, and Coinbase and Circle continue to push forward. The news story that we had recently was that they think that stablecoins are going to take over the world. They're not even pretending that they care about decentralization anymore. The idea is that the old traditional financial system is trying to upgrade and update right before our eyes. And this is why Swift is doing all of this, for those of you who didn't really get it. They said, and I quote, "We are paving the way towards real-world solutions that will enable our members to access and transact with regulated digital assets and currencies on the Swift network." Global payment network Swift announced on Wednesday a plan to facilitate the move of digital assets and currencies on their platform. The initiative aims to allow members to access and transact with regulated digital currencies, building on prior experiments conducted with their community. So a lot of different websites touted this as something positive for crypto, and that's because people are delusional and don't understand that the people in power want to remain in power. The people in power do not care about and do not want Bitcoin. The reason why they became rich is because they have control over the system. Not even a tinfoil hat thing, it's just the way that the world works. So from their perspective, central bank digital currencies and stable coins are just fine, but everything else will probably not be included on this system at all. A lot of people assumed that this was a wink in the direction of XRP. It is probably not, unless we hear something directly from Ripple or someone says the letters XRP somewhere at Swift and or from the Fed. And the other part is, and I say this lightly, the only scenario I really see Bitcoin being a part of this in any way, shape, or form is if in the next 5 years, 10 years, Bitcoin's price becomes so large that you literally can't ignore it. We're already in the situation where you got the BlackRocks and the Fidelities and everyone else getting into the space. And I'll say it this way. But if the people who control the world basically say like, no, like this is the new thing, we'll probably hear about some kind of an acceptance on the Swift network for Bitcoin, but it'll probably be like some weird token swap kind of thing where you have to send Bitcoin to your local bank or your digital bank account and then swap it into the local stable coin. But very popular news because people think that it indicates that in some sort of way you understand what I'm saying. It's not that at all. I don't even really wish for that. I think it's incredibly weird and odd how many people in crypto like want us to go back to the same system or stay in the same system. I was going to say I was going to say none of you should be young enough, which is also true. None of you should have forgotten 2008 or 2009. The same people who did that are the same people running Swift. They're the same people running the old system and the old banks. Don't get confused by Larry Fink or anyone from BlackRock talking positively about Bitcoin. It's just a method for them as well to make money. And they perceive that this thing might be able to make them money forever. So this is why they've grasped onto it. But a lot of times where are those people now? Remember in spring when most people were falling over themselves? I mean, rushing to every billionaire who even remotely, if they sneezed and it sounded like Bitcoin, people were like, you? Money? Like that. And it's like, these people got their money from the old system and they want to keep things the exact same way unless they can figure out a way to like benefit from it in some, this is why Warren Buffett doesn't like it. This is why a lot of other people, and I'll say this lightly as well, understand that just because someone rich says that they like Bitcoin doesn't necessarily mean that they do. Everyone seems to be losing their mind thinking that a couple billionaires recently just hopped on the train. Has history shown you nothing? Anywho, I would love if more normal people got into crypto, kept on spreading it around. If we got to a situation where more and more people like 1 million people per day, not the normal 20, 30,000 new wallet addresses. I want people around you and billions of people to benefit from this system. Like, what are you going to do if Bitcoin hits $500,000 next year? You should be benefiting from it. Yeah, very popular news that cannot be understated. Because the moment I saw Swift, I kind of had a feeling what it was going to be about, and I saw every website being like, this might mean that in the future we might see that XRP might be on, and I'm like, okay, right. It's kind of the same thing whenever like years ago, whenever a bank was announcing that they were using blockchain or like forking Ethereum to make their own like private Ethereum chain. That also took off because people were like, this bank is using Ethereum. And it's like, cool it. These people benefit from the old system and they want it to remain. So just always keep that in mind. Rich people do not care about us. We have to care about ourselves and help each other. I think that's going to do it for this video. I do sincerely hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, whenever you are, whatever the heck you might be doing. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.